Well, I'm back again. I had some really nice comments on the last video I put up with the vek3d file here, especially with this one right here. So in one of the comments, they asked about how I get this paint job to look shiny but also worn, and how I did that and what I used. So first, talk about the paints. I did not use any super expensive paint at all. The only thing that I used a little different from what I normally used was, instead of using a strong clear, I used a clear that I normally use for chrome, which came from Spaztex. And that was just to clear this part and the back of this, because the paint was pulling off of the object and sticking onto this. And so to stop that, the clear acts like a small shield in front of it, especially after it dries out. Alright, so what I used on this compared to this, and is I used a satin black. So satin black doesn't have a really big shine to it. It's shiny enough, but this is how it looks. Like, if you see it, I'm putting my finger next to it, you don't see it, the reflection of my finger in like super clear. It looks faded and hazy, and that's what satin's for. Now, to get it smooth like this, the way I did it was I used one of these. This is a 3000 grit sandpaper. It's spongy. It's really nice for scuffing, in my opinion. So, and I did the same thing with this. So this one is, I used a gloss navy blue. It's called midnight blue, sorry. And when it was clear, it was super shiny. You could see my reflection like a mirror. And I basically used this and stroke light sanding in one direction all the way across. And so I go in one direction so that the line of the scratches are even and parallel. And so in this, the reason why I was going this way was I kept thinking wind would travel like this and scuffs would happen when you move your head. So that's what I did, was moved it left and right. And I did the same with this. Now, on the silver application, that can be tricky, but what I used for that was a simple brush like this, okay, and this rub and buff. Okay, so what I would do is I got a little piece of paper and I would mix the brush as much as I can in it and flatten it out, as the edge out as much as I can, and then I would just go over the edge and just run my finger with this across. And if I made a little bit more of a mess than I wanted to, this thing also acts like an eraser, so you can dab it with a little bit of water and just again go through the strokes, and it will erase areas that you don't want. And so I tried to bring it down a little bit like this across, and get as close as I can to the edge to make it look like it was worn in. And what's also really nice is, because it's sandpaper and has these little structures, so sometimes it will actually add little more scratches to the silver, making it look more worn in to the paint. And that's just something I've picked up over a few different times of painting Mandalorian armor. And I use a couple different steps for that, but for the edging of something I use this. And so if you keep the brush dry and not wet, you can get a little bit more texture from your brushwork, so it gives it a little bit more worn look. See, this is where it was really dry, so it really looked like I wore the paint out there from everyday use. But that's how I did that, and how I go about dulling out the glossy finish. And I mean, it's not difficult, so I'm gonna see if I turn on a little light here. Hold on. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna take this older one, right, and I'm just gonna lightly and it doesn't do a lot. But it does just enough to dull it out a little bit and give it a kind of faded look. So, yeah. And in another comment, I was asked how I orientated it. So I have a video where I had it on the plate and I can show you, but really the orientation is the same as most people that print masks. Is I have it facing up like this, and I don't have any supports on the bottom. I just support the edges around, and then any on the outside, any little lips and stuff like that that would go in. So like, give you an example here, I had a bunch of supports inside here and around here, but I didn't have any behind it. That kept it held on the plate. But what really makes this look so clean, especially to the top area, like right here, isn't so much the orientation, but a feature on Cura called adaptive layering. So what that does is, as it gets closer and closer to the end of an arc, the layers get smaller. So it goes from a 0.2, 0.5 to a 0.01. So right when it's getting around here, instead of being like 5 layers and it's done, it adds like 20 layers. and they get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if your 3D printer is nicely tuned, that means you've done your E-steps and you have your retraction set really well, you can get a fairly beautiful texture print. The drawback is I never PID tuned my hot end. So what probably is happening is I get a little fluctuation. So on items like this where it has no texture, I will get small layer lines that go in this way, but they're not layer shifts due to wobble or jerk. They are mainly the extra heat and cooling that's happening between the filament and the area. It's causing it to have wider and thinner lines in it. You can kind of see some of that right here on the helmet. Now I could have taken a little bit more time and brushed it down with some sandpaper here, but because it's textured, it didn't really bother me, so I just left it at that. Well, that's my I guess a little update on what I did to weather this and to bring down the shine. Yeah, so just remember, you get 3000 grit sandpaper, you want this one. There's another one that has a cloth instead of this, and the cloth one just does not seem to be as abrasive as enough, and so this one is really good. I also use this to get, hold on, I'm gonna pause this, reflections like this. You see how nice and mirrory this is, but it's not so shiny that it looks like super chrome. It almost looks like aluminum or aluminium, is how some people say. Anyway, so I used this on the clear to bring it down to where it was as clean as possible, as smooth as possible, and then I buffed the heck out of it. Then once I did that, I sprayed my chrome, and then I let that dry. And before I could do a clear, I use a water-based aqua clear to give it a protection from the chrome to the epoxy clear, which would be like 2K. And so if you're not using a high expensive chrome like what was that, Alumoluster or that Delirium paint, use something like Spastex or Alcalad chrome. When you put any kind of reducer on top of it, it flips the chrome flakes, so it goes from this real pretty metal look to a gray. And in order to stop that, the water-based clear acts like a protective covering for that, but it's not strong. It can chip and scrape easily, so that's why you want to coat it over again with the better clear. And then once you get that on, you can use this again to bring it down, and this takes a while. You know, this is not something that goes by fast. You can hurry it up by using like 2000 grit and then this, which would be fine. But the problem when you start going with these less like more abrasive grits is it can tear through your clear. So if you don't have enough clear on it, you'll end up tearing through it, and then you'll lose the protection that you were trying to get in the first place. So that's how I basically clean out and scuff out my objects. And then I guess what I can kind of show you is on this. So this is a piece of this jet pack that I've been working on, and as you can see, it's pretty shiny, right? So I'm just gonna go over here. I can polish this up again. I'm gonna pause this real quick. Okay, back in action. So I'm just gonna go up on the top here. Okay, I'm gonna clean a little bit of that dust off. So you see how the shininess of it right here, but you can see it's a little rough because of how the paint dried, right? But when I come over here, it's smoother, but it's also faded. It's not as shiny. Go over here, you can see my finger. Go over here, you'd only see the shadow of my finger. And that is how I scuff it. And when you want to repolish it, you put a little polish on there and buff it with a buffer, or you can go through a microfiber cloth and keep rubbing it, and it will get its shine back. Not as shiny without any kind of rub and buff, but shiny enough. And that is the process on how I did that. So shiny to not shiny. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this 15-minute video. And so if you find my content interesting, fun, or informative, please throw a comment, like, and subscribe. And I will look forward to reading your comments. Have a great day.